Hi everyone, welcome to Module 14. In the previous module, we learned about hypothesis testing, and the hypothesis testing we used in that module was fairly straightforward and simple in that we were comparing a particular population parameter, either the population mean or the population proportion, depending on whether it was a quantitative or categorical variable. We were comparing that to a particular number. And while this is sometimes useful in the real world, it's not terribly useful. It's a good introduction to hypothesis testing because it's the simplest form of hypothesis testing. But when you get down to it, a much more useful kind of hypothesis testing is when you're comparing whether the mean, if it's a quantitative variable, or the proportion, if it's a categorical variable, is the same, larger, or smaller, or different from the same population proportion from a different population. So for example, we might be wanting to compare residents of California to residents of New York. And we want to know whether the mean age of residents of California is different from the mean age of residents of New York. And if that's the case, we aren't comparing to a particular number. What we're doing is comparing two different sample values, two different sample means, to see if there is a significant difference between them. Or to use an example from politics, let's say that we're looking at two different populations in two different cities and seeing whether they're going to vote for, with a different proportion, voting for a particular candidate for president, for example. So we've got two different groups, populations we call them, and we have a sample statistic, either the sample mean if it is a quantitative variable, or the sample proportion if it is a categorical variable, and we're trying to compare to see whether those two sample statistics are different enough to lead us to conclude beyond a reasonable doubt that the difference in the population parameters in those two populations is also different. So that's what we're going to be doing in Module 14. This is covering Chapter 11 in the textbook, and we're going to be doing three things in this chapter. We're going to be doing a comparison of quantitative variables when we have large sample sizes. We're then going to do a comparison of quantitative variables when we have small sample sizes. And if we have small sample sizes, remember, we're going to be using P rather than using C. And then thirdly, we're going to be doing the same thing for proportions. And when we're doing proportions, fortunately, we always can use C. So what is the process? Well, it's going to be very similar to what we've been doing in the past. You'll be watching a number of Khan Academy assignments. This time, there are fewer videos in Khan Academy than normal and fewer assignments. You will be doing Hawk's Learning lessons. The Hawk's Learning lessons in this particular case are going to involve 4 lessons, 2 of them from Chapter 11 and 2 of them from the appendix. So you want to make sure that you do both the 2 from Chapter 11 as well as the 2 from the appendix this week. And then, my system catch up with me here. Sorry, it takes it a minute. There we go. In Chapter 14, then, we're going to be doing a Canvas practice assignment, just as we normally do. The answer keys will be available on Tuesday morning. So try and complete it by Monday to get credit so that you can then compare your answers to the answer keys on Tuesday morning. There are a few extra credit opportunities in this module as well that you can work on. And once you've finished it, we're going to be moving on to the last few chapters of the book, the last few topics that we're going to be covering this semester, which include what's known as the chi-squared test, which we'll be doing in Module 15, and then the most important topic of the entire semester, which is regression analysis, which we'll be doing in Module 16 and 17. Okay, so good luck with Module 14, and as always, if you have questions, be sure and post them on the discussion forum.